Hello everybody, this is Tyler here once again from the Character Workshop, where I'm pretty much ending 2020 on A Cape from England with quite a special little treat. So I'm sure everybody out there has heard about A Christmas Carol. It's arguably one of the most adapted Christmas stories of all time. Over the past 150 years since this story has been out, there's been many different adaptations from books to movies to TV specials, to theater plays, radio recordings, so many different adaptations. The storyline is pretty much, very simple, and everybody pretty much knows what it is. It's about an old man named Ebenezer Scrooge who, is hateful on Christmas and is, greedy and, pretty not very nice to everybody he knows. But then, three different spirits, change his thoughts by showing him, his past, present, and then his future if he was to continue being, the way he is. So he eventually changed his ways and became a nice guy and was very generous. So today I'm going to be talking about a very interesting adaptation of A Christmas Carol, starring everybody's favorite horrid little man, Blackadder. So some of you have probably already seen the previous two episodes that I've done talking about Blackadder's first two series. So this particular Christmas special came out December 23rd, 1988 and was broadcasted on the BBC. And as I've already mentioned, it's basically just Blackadder mixed with A Christmas Carol, but with quite an interesting twist. And without further ado, let's get on with it. So this special starts off with another incarnation of Blackadder during the Victorian time period by the name of Ebenezer Blackadder. And ironically, unlike Scrooge from the original Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Blackadder actually starts out as being the nice guy. Hell, he's even considered the nicest man in England around that time, as he was, very generous and kind to everybody, and of course, as a result, people have taken a lot of advantage of him. For example, taking his money, taking his food, etc. Which, everybody around him, besides, of course, Mr. Baldrick, who works alongside him, view him as a victim. And as he generally does not receive any profit from his business, all of his earnings normally either go to charity or to con artists. And unlike some of the other versions of Blackadder, he actually had a pretty positive attitude despite, his lonely, miserable situation. But then during the night on Christmas Eve, Blackadder's whole thing changes when the spirit of Christmas came by to congratulate him for being such a nice guy. And the spirit pretty much showed Blackadder's previous ancestors, the one from Blackadder 2 and the one from Blackadder the Third, which I've not covered yet on this series. So with the flashback from Blackadder 2, it pretty much showed Blackadder, giving Queen Elizabeth I a paper that was meant to be sort of a death warrant for Lord Melchett, and there was the end of that. And then for Blackadder the Third, he pretty much told a sad story about an old lady to Prince George, and funny thing is, he tried to get Baldrick to play as an old lady to trick George into thinking that it's an actual old lady taking all the presents, and eventually the old lady shows up and of course takes all the presents. And as soon as Blackadder had a feeling that his plan worked, we see Baldrick come out of the door with an old lady outfit and saying oh hey, did I miss anything? And you realize that the old lady that was taking all the presents was actually an actual old lady and not Baldrick disguised as an old lady. So that was pretty humorous. Contrary to the fact that the spirit of Christmas is trying to show that Blackadder's predecessors were pretty much assholes, Ebenezer Blackadder thought that they were pretty cool and admired them and their wits. And he asked the spirit, what would happen if he was to eventually, end up like his predecessors. And the spirit then showed him, taking place in the far future, where he had a descendant by the name of Grand Admiral Blackadder, who was a successful and ruthless official for the Galactic Empire, and he was about to marry the ruthless and insanely ambitious Queen Exficia. I can't pronounce that word, but anyway, it's Queen, the A word, the 19th, who was played by the same actress that played Queen Elizabeth I in the Blackadder 2 series. And also, Baldric in the near future was wearing a loincloth and was pretty much Blackadder's slave. So, after Ebenezer Blackadder saw this, he then asked the spirit what would happen if he continued being the nice guy that he was. And in the alternate future that the spirit showed him, Baldric ended up being the admiral, while Blackadder ended up being the slave in the loincloth. And instead of, taking the spirit's advice of, continuing to be a nice guy, Baldric, not Baldric, what am I saying? Blackadder thinks in his head, like, oh, being a bad guy is, really good. So, on Christmas morning, he changed his ways, and now he is, bitter, vengeful, greedy, and pretty much insults everybody he meets, which is basically what the previous versions of Blackadder were like. And now that he was feeling, control of his life for the first time, he misses an opportunity when he insults two strangers who claim to be Queen Victoria and Prince Albert and throws them out of his home, which, yes, in reality, they actually ended up being the actual Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. And so during the evening, Blackadder decides to, of course, eat, his Christmas dinner, and however, that was unfortunately ruined when Baldric pretty much told them that those strangers that he met earlier actually ended up being, the real Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, and he pretty much showed Blackadder the seal that they would show, and also told Blackadder that they were willing to give him £50,000 and the title of being Baron Blackadder for being the nicest man in England. So yeah, I guess Blackadder didn't realize that, being a nice guy actually, literally paid off and ended up being about as mean as his predecessors. And yeah, that was pretty much the synopsis of Blackadder's Christmas Carol. And what do I think about it? I thought it was, amazing. To be honest, out of all the things I've seen so far from Blackadder, it's definitely my favorite thing from the franchise so far. It was really funny. I love the fact that it pretty much does a 180 on the typical Christmas Carol storyline, where guy starts off mean, ends up being nice, but this time around, guy starts being nice and ends up being mean. So I really enjoyed that, and funny enough, when I was watching the very beginning of it, and noticing, how, uncannily nice Blackadder was, I'm like, something's not right here. He's normally kind of a dick to other people. It's kind of strange to see him nice, but then as soon as I see what was going on during the story, I was like, I know where this is going. It's basically the other way around from A Christmas Carol, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. Just an interesting fact to mention while I'm talking about the Blackadder Christmas Carol. There was a particular portion in the very beginning where Baldric talked about the fact that they were using a dog for the Jesus, using the dog to play Jesus in the Nativity play. And in the original version of the special, there was a line where Baldric said that the dog would also be nailed to a cross for Easter. And a lot of later versions of the special would cut out this line. The earliest known case of this was, in 1989 when the special was reran on the BBC. And of course, it was also used for terrestrial broadcasts, later on in the years for 1998, 2007, 2008, 2010, and 2012. The edited version of this special was seen in the Blackadder Ultimate Edition DVD set, which I actually have, so that might have been the version that I watched, the edited version without that line. And it was also on the UK channel called Gold since 2018. But Funny enough, the uncut version of it was broadcasted on that channel up until 2017 for some weird reason. And, interestingly enough, the original uncut version of, that the special was, seen in the Region 1 US DVD set, which is, I don't know, now I really gotta rewatch it, because I missed that line the first time I, saw the special. I might have to rewatch it, but anyways, so apparently the US DVD set features the uncut version as well as the US and UK versions of Netflix, which I had no idea Netflix had that show. You learn something new every day. And then there's a character I forgot to mention, while I was talking about the synopsis. I would have brought her up, but she wasn't like that main of a character. She was just mostly there just to, I guess be a joke. Apparently Blackadder had a goddaughter in this special by the name of Millicent? I'm sure that's how her name is pronounced. I already forgot. But, there's like a running, thing during the whole special where she basically just laughs really annoyingly like, and yeah, there was even a portion at the very beginning where like Blackadder himself had like earmuffs and Baldric had socks on his ears to prevent them both from hearing her laugh. And this character was actually played by Nicola Bryant, who is well known for playing as Perry Brown in Doctor Who, which I just talked about in the last episode. I talked about, the Peter Davison era, and Nicola Bryant, of course, made her first appearance as Perry during that era, and just something interesting to point out. But I think all in all, that's all I gotta say about Blackadder's Christmas Carol. This ended up being a shorter episode than the previous 2 times I talked about Blackadder. And that's, of course, because this is just like a one-time special. This wasn't like an entire series. It was only just one 42-minute special. And I really enjoyed it. And if you guys are a fan of comedy and you guys like A Christmas Carol, I would definitely recommend watching this. If you, for whatever reason, don't have any streaming services that have Blackadder on there, I would say just try to get the Ultimate Edition DVD box set, as that was how I watched it. And yeah, it's really good. I honestly really liked it. It was great. I'll definitely consider watching it again, like, in the near future. Maybe even later this month. I don't know. But with that being said, that's about it for this episode of Vacate from England. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give it a like, and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more episodes of Vacate from England, and just mediocre plush content in general. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. That's about it. This is Tyler from The Character Workshop, signing out, and wishing you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And yeah, stay tuned next year in 2021 for Season 4. No official release date yet, but just stay tuned. It'll probably come out, pretty much, I don't know. Just expect it in 2021. I'll be back for Season 4.